You worry about that? I ask. Well, I think about it a lot. It's always with me. I feel like I'm not a part of the world anymore, that like somehow I just fell out. Let's use the theater analogy some more, I said. I didn't mention it earlier, but when our guy first got out of his chains and stood up, one of the first things he saw was that the theater was full of other people, all the people he loves and cares for, held in place by the same unlocked chains, and watching the same images on the screen like that's all there is. Okay? Okay. What does he do? She answers without hesitation. Tries to help them. Get them to, snap out of it. Wake up. Undo their chains and look around. See what's really going on. Is that what you did? Yeah, kinda. That's when I started wondering if I was losing it. I tried talking to my mom and some of my friends and even my brother, but they all just treated me like I was being goofy. Earth to Jolene, that sort of thing. I stopped talking about stuff when they started getting annoyed and rude about it, like it was threatening to them or something. Just a little heads up, Jolene. People don't like to have their version of reality fucked with. Try it if you still need to get it out of your system, but prepare yourself for unpleasant results. She didn't blink at the strong language. I'm not reluctant to speak forcefully when the need for emphasis warrants it. Steering someone away from their altruistic impulses at this early stage warrants it. I was lying on my back at this point, eyes closed, soaking up the sun. So, what's the difference between mysticism and enlightenment? I asked her. She took her time. Several minutes elapsed, during which I had drifted into a light doze. Then, to my delight, she answered the question correctly. I have no idea. Chapter 16. The Harmony of the Spheres. Enlightenment is to be restored to divine humor, to realize that nothing is necessary. Master de Avab Asa. After showering, I get dressed and consider going downstairs to grab a few books. I have Enlightenment versus Mysticism on the brain now. But walking downstairs, finding a book and bringing it back upstairs isn't as easy as it sounds. Everyone is down there now, cooking, eating, and socializing, and the atmosphere is fairly relaxed. If I go down, the whole dynamic changes. Everything stops, and everyone shifts into a more formal mode. And then I'm the center of attention, and everyone looks at me expectantly, which is too much fuss just for a book. We have a huge spiritual library. Several, actually. The main one is in the living room, but there are half a dozen others spread throughout the house. Together, they probably hold every spiritual and New Age title from the last 100 years, as well as countless versions, translations, and transliterations of all the ancient stuff. Almost always, when people come out for a visit or a stay, they feel they have to bring something. Even if they're just coming to hang out or do some work, they often feel that they can't come empty-handed, so they bring gifts. The gifts are actually an important part of the whole deal, as is the work that they do here. A student cannot approach a teacher like a beggar, hat in hand, only taking. There has to be an energetic exchange. It doesn't matter that I may not ever see the gift they brought, only that they brought it. It doesn't matter that I don't know the work they do, only that they do it. If you think of approaching a Tibetan Lama for his teachings, you would naturally begin by offering him a silk scarf. Not a great one, not an expensive one, not one that's going to make him do cartwheels. Just a scarf, one of the thousands he'll receive in his wise man career. The giver is always the true recipient. It's one of those universal laws that keeps everything balanced. I said earlier that I was being careful not to mention the idea of bunkhouses on the property for fear that well-intentioned students would zealously take it upon themselves to manifest the teacher's desire. It's really the sort of thing that can easily get out of hand. There have been some truly exorbitant gifts made to me and the household, all of which were returned or passed along. I believe we have now instituted a spending cap of $15 for gifts, with a gentle suggestion that they would be either in the form of books or cut flowers. This teaching gig can be a real stroll on the tightrope. It doesn't matter that to an awakened mind, extravagant gifts are mere gestures to be acknowledged and shared. We all see the world through our own filters, so greed, corruption, and sexual impropriety are expectantly projected onto the spiritual teacher. In this vein, I have to watch myself at all times. I can't be flirting with the girls, or expressing admiration for nice cars, or making casual references to sex and drugs and rock and roll, or telling colorful tales from my salad days. I originally bought this house planning to live a quiet, peaceful, reclusive existence. Although that plan has long since become laughable, the fact remains that I want to be able to stay here. I don't want to be swept up in some unsavory scandal in the local rumor mills. Me and this unlikely group of people who gravitate to me are not exactly indigenous to the locale. We transplanted ourselves into someone else's garden, and I think it's important that we be friendly, respectful, and a little guarded in order to maintain long-term harmony. On the other hand, I don't lose a lot of sleep over gifts and reputations and all that. It all takes care of itself, and if it doesn't, Sonia does. So these days, the gifts they bring are mostly books and cut flowers, but it used to be almost anything. Little statues of Hindu deities, jade eggs, plants, CDs, jewelry, tarot decks, wall art, candles, incense, T-shirts, food, wine, goldfish, drums, didgeridoos, rain sticks, wind chimes, videos, candy, fresh produce. You name it, people were making an offering of it to me or the house. Of course, there was nothing we could do with most of it. We couldn't display every single item, or the place would look like a New Age junk shop. We couldn't eat all the food, or find room for all the plants, or wear all the Tulsi bead necklaces. So I guess Sonia solved the problem by making it known that books or cut flowers were the preferred gifts for those who felt the need to bring something. That's only a partial solution, of course, because now we were receiving a dozen copies of any book that makes it to the top 10 on the spiritual list. If I were shrewd, I'd open a small book and flower kiosk in the front yard and sell the stuff right back to them so they could walk in with something which I, in turn, could sell again. I wonder how many copies of this book I'll be receiving as a gift. Joke, guys. Don't. The cut flowers are nice, especially in winter when our own gardens aren't exploding. Practically every room in the house always has fresh cut flowers, and it's an added dimension of life in the house for which I am constantly grateful. Cut flowers are preferred over potted plants because we can throw them out after a week. If everybody brought plants, we'd be running a nursery within a few months. Right now, there's a specific passage I'm looking for, and I think I can find it in one of the upstairs book collections. I'm a fan of transpersonal psychology in general, and Dr. Stanislav Grof in particular. I sort through my collection of books by Grof, and it doesn't take me long to find the part describing the mystical experience that I've been thinking about. It is an ecstatic state, characterized by the loss of boundaries between the subject and the objective world, with ensuing feelings of unity with other people, nature, the entire universe, and God. In most instances, this experience is contentless and is accompanied by visions of brilliant white or golden light, rainbow spectra, or elaborate designs resembling peacock feathers. It can, however, be associated with archetypal figurative visions of deities or divine personages from various cultural frameworks. LSD subjects give various descriptions of this condition based on their educational background and intellectual orientation. They speak about cosmic unity, unio mystica, mysterium tremendum, cosmic consciousness, unity with God, Atman-Brahman union, samadhi, satori, moksha, or the harmony of the spheres. That's as good a description of the experience as I've ever heard. I take the book to my big comfy chair in the TV room, turn on the lamp, and continue reading. I have no personal interest in the distinction between enlightenment and mysticism. I know exactly what one is and have a more than adequate personal acquaintance with the other. The problem, a common one for me, is how to express it. If I didn't have to teach it, I wouldn't spend any time or effort learning it. I did my time. I spent thousands of hours with my nose buried in every spiritual New Age, metaphysical, and esoteric book you could name, and quite a few books on religion and Western philosophy, too, using the knowledge in books to fuel an unquenchable internal blaze. I obsessed on this stuff when it was critical to my journey, but now that's behind me, and my lingering interest in this subject stems from the fact that I am challenged with communicating it. It's also, I should mention, a personal pleasure. I enjoy visiting with a mind that can express these squirrely contradictions succinctly, all the more so for the rarity of it. The samadhi that Groff describes is, of course, the most beautiful and profound experience a human being can hope to have, but it is only of peripheral interest within the context of spiritual awakening. The reason I wish I could get a better handle on these two subjects is, as I've already stated, to be better able to correct the tendency of those on the spiritual path to be chasing the one and calling it the other. Everybody wants the radiance and the bliss and the union with the divine, and everyone seems to believe that spiritual enlightenment is the name for it when you have dipped yourself into the divine so many times that it has permanently altered your spiritual hue. A 1975 New York Times Magazine article entitled, "Are We a Nation of Mystics?" refers to a study of Americans in which 40% of respondents reported having had experienced, at some time in their lives, feelings of being very close to a powerful spiritual force that seemed to lift them out of themselves. The article's conclusion is that such intense, overwhelming, indescribable experiences are widespread, almost commonplace in American society today. This is certainly in line with my own views on the matter. If anything, I'm surprised that the percentage is so low. But even if only 40% of Americans can claim to have had a mystical experience, how abiding can we really claim the transformative effects to be? Either we are most decidedly not a nation of mystics, or the transformation ascribed to a divine encounter and or ego transcendence renders one a mystic of only the most minor and inconsequential degree, especially as the influence of the experience fades with time. My opinion is that the experience of unity is like the most uplifting piece of music one can ever hope to hear. It raises the bar and makes other music sound tinny and discordant by comparison, but eventually the memory fades and regular music resumes its previous place in one's heart. More to the point, in my view, the mystical experience is something to have, not something to have had. The memory of it begins receding the moment it's over, and it quickly takes on the remote quality of a dream. One may remember that one has had a mystical experience, but that memory bears little or no resemblance to the experience itself. I don't mean to diminish the transformative impact of the mystical event.